in software and 1 foot in hard tech or like climate tech, and we got put in a group full of a group full of climate tech companies, and they're all working on just like building new kinds of batteries and like retrofitting ships with enormous carbon capture mechanisms. And it's really, really fun group of people to be working with for the program duration.
All right, this is another episode of the Form Your Own Pack podcast. My guest is Shawn Drost from Pheonix Hydrogen. How are you doing?
Good morning. Doing great. Thanks for having me, Michael.
All right, so for people that don't know, who is Shawn?
Well, I am an entrepreneur and software engineer. I started my career as a programmer and worked as a team lead and engineer for many years at OkCupid, a bunch of other places. And then I moved into entrepreneurship about a decade ago and spent most of that time building Hack Reactor, the coding bootcamp, and grew that company to about 30 million a year in revenue before selling and stepping away in 2019. And I made a big switch to work in something connected to climate change. Spent about a year and a half kind of in this transition period, learning the ropes of a brand new sector. I started working in the in the energy sector, which was a big switch, of course, and did a lot of activities to learn the ropes and get educated. And ultimately, I started the company that I'm building now with my co-founder. The new company is Pheonix Hydrogen. We are a marketplace for green hydrogen, which is a really important up and coming climate solution.
And then you guys are part of the Y Combinator program. We were kind of talking about that before. How has that been for you?
Oh, it's been it was a really great experience. I was in the W22 Y Combinator program, which ran through like January to March of this year. We are kind of a weird looking company. We are if you know this about marketplaces, like there's a really hard part of starting a marketplace company, which is like this cold start problem, where it's like I have a background in the dating industry too, so it's like a dating app with nobody on it. It's not all that useful. And we are working to start a new enormous scale marketplace. Like we're working to serve the utility scale hydrogen ecosystem. So the transaction sizes are in the millions of billions of dollars. And so it's a really big cold start problem to solve. And there's a bunch of like physical infrastructure tie-ins, and like everything's like, it's a big mess of a sector and company that we're trying to start here. At least from the outside, we think it's like really straightforward and awesome. But we had a lot of we had a difficult early path to chart. We're about 18 months in now and are just getting our first customer. And the experience of Y Combinator was really helpful in a lot of different ways for, trying to charge through that really difficult period and then raise some money in the middle of it as well. It was an enormous boon in terms of our fundraising process and our ability to raise the money we needed to cross that stretch of desert. So it was really helpful experience. And one thing a lot of people don't know about Y Combinator is that they have a pretty strong and really fun little corner of the community that is really all about climate tech and
Oh, really?
there's of course Y Combinator is better known for being a part of the like Silicon Valley software ecosystem, and we're a company with 1 foot in software and 1 foot in hard tech or like climate tech, and we got put in a group full of a group full of climate tech companies, and they're all working on just like building new kinds of batteries and like retrofitting ships with enormous carbon capture mechanisms. And it's really, really fun group of people to be working with for the program duration.
Well, I was going to say I've noticed a trend there, and maybe that's why that there's some really non-software type startups in there. Like we talked with Benjamin Alva, for example, and they're doing like microorganism platform generation where they're creating a platform that can, for example, extract lithium from non-traditional sources that are previously unextractable through building microorganisms. So you're like, wow, what are you going to do in 90 days? But they do a lot, right? Like that
Yeah.
accelerates. So that's really interesting to hear. Um, are you or maybe what you can expand upon just quickly is, so you're creating a marketplace for hydrogen exchange. Is that what it is? And you said utilities. So what is hydrogen used for that maybe people don't know?
Yeah.
What
So
problem is the marketplace solving?
yeah, so hydrogen is you can think of hydrogen like natural gas without the carbon. So natural gas is a flammable gas, and you can burn it to do a lot of different things. You can also use it, just chemically. It's a molecule that has a lot of options. It can go in a lot of different directions, and we use natural gas methane to produce like fertilizer and to produce methanol, which we use in like paper and a million different industries. We use natural gas in the production of steel in this method called direct reduced iron. And we use natural gas kind of all over the economy to do different things. And you can, in many cases, just directly replace that with hydrogen produced by wind or solar energy. If you zap water with electricity, then it turns into hydrogen gas and oxygen gas, and the hydrogen gas is a flammable gaseous fuel. So it's you can do a lot of different things with it in theory, and a lot of different users of fossil fuels who are trying to replace those fossil fuels are looking at hydrogen as a solution to some of their harder problems. So like, in North America, the biggest, earliest mover in hydrogen was the Los Angeles utility, LADWP. And they, their mandate is to make the grid zero carbon by 2035. That's what the city council told them to do. And of course they get they buy all the wind and solar power and battery power that they can. And like, all those like grab bag of solutions. But at the end of the day, like, it's really nice to have a power plant that will turn on when you need it to, and natural gas is a solution for that right now. And they don't have a lot of great solutions for that for a low carbon power source that will turn on when you need it to and then stay on for whatever duration you need it to. And so they are looking at hydrogen as a solution to that the kind of last piece of the puzzle, so to speak. And to put hydrogen into the natural gas combustion turbines that today, keep the grid up when it's the hottest 4-day stretch of the year or whatever.
Really interesting. Okay, super. So you're like picks and shovels under that. You're like the marketplace so that they
Yeah, so LADWP is going to need to, in order to accomplish that, they're going to need to do a lot of different pieces of work. They're going to need to. There's new infrastructure that needs to get built around, like, pipeline carrying hydrogen instead of a pipeline carrying methane, and then there's got to be all these production facilities that produce the hydrogen and put it into the pipeline, and there needs to be like a whole new grid is being planned out and built right now, and that activity is already happening. It's in motion already, and we are sort of the marketplace where all of this activity is kind of being done right now, one-on-one, basically, where company A will call company B and say, like, do you need to buy 30 years worth of a lot of hydrogen? Like, we have a $1 billion hydrogen production facility we're planning. Do you want to buy 30 years worth of product? And there's, it's very different versus, like, the way that the electrical grid works or the way that the natural gas system works is that if you make a bunch of production, you don't have to like market. You don't necessarily have to market the entire thing all at once. And there's a wide variety of like financial tools and solutions to to make that project easy to finance, to hedge your risks, and we're building that for the hydrogen ecosystem. So we are connecting supply and demand around right now the problem that our company is focused on is a really important uh government funding process that's happening, and we are helping to coordinate that process, and to do matchmaking between supply and demand through the course of that process.
Very interesting. Okay, so for you guys, what is product market fit? How, at what point will you know that this is being accepted and successful and you guys are off to the races?
Yeah, so we as a as a marketplace, the hard part of the startup journey is the cold start problem, and uh, we uh, we think we have a solution to that. And in the next 9 months, we're gearing up to conduct the first large scale auction for hydrogen and produce the first market price. Today, there's no market price for hydrogen. There's no
Wow.
like venue where hydrogen is bought and sold like at arm's length, and there's a price that you can say is based on real transactions. That doesn't exist. We're working to produce that in the next 9 months, and if we do that, we are pretty golden as a company.
Awesome.
The first big at bat is like if it connects, then we're pretty good. If you solve the cold start problem, then that's pretty much the name of the game. Like everyone knows that there's going to be a marketplace for clean hydrogen, and it's an urgently needed solution. It's just a real coordination challenge to make it happen this year.
And then is the revenue model like a percentage of transactions? Is it SaaS based or?
Yeah, it's a standard marketplace business model. In commodity ecosystems, the take rate tends to be quite a bit lower, and so you see on the very low end, like commodity exchanges, like the Intercontinental Exchange might have a take rate well under 1%, well under 0.1%. But but the volumes that they do are just outrageously large. Every day, $30 billion a day changes hands in natural gas
Crazy.
contracts.
Okay. So yeah, you're kind of like a toll booth right in between it. That's pretty cool. And then
Yeah.
facilitating transactions that are probably done by word of mouth or spreadsheets today. So,
Yeah, like in the global oil trade, for instance, there's every commodity has its own different working mechanism, and it's been very fun and interesting to learn about how all this stuff works. Like there are some marketplaces that are really like liquid and arm's length, and like run by mechanical rules, like the London Metals Exchange, for instance, or I mentioned the Intercontinental Exchange. Like these are venues where very simple, clear contracts are traded, and anyone can trade them. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have like physical oil transactions across country borders, where there's like a club of about 100 people that just all call each other or text each other, and that's it. That's the only.
that's crazy. That is
Yeah,
amazing. If someone forgets to text you, we're all in trouble.
yeah, yeah. Those people are adequately compensated to keep the notifications on.
Oh my goodness, that's really interesting. All right, well, this is super interesting to learn about, and we're excited to follow your journey as you, go through and grow this, and be interesting to see where you guys end up. If you could offer other founders only one piece of advice, what would that advice be?
Oh man, what is one advice? You know what, my advice is, you got this. This is like the whole hard part about entrepreneurship is just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and like be okay with just looking like a total moron, or actually just being a total moron. It's okay. Like your job is to be a moron like at least a third of the day, is because if you're not, then you're not really trying something that is unknown and unexplored. So basically, the dumber you feel, the better an entrepreneur you are. Is kind of, I guess, where I'm going with this.
That is pretty good advice, because I think, we get sometimes I think of stuff you start and then you stop because you're like, it's not working and I'm failing. And that's the wrong message when you're doing this, right? It's like, oh no, we got to keep going till it works. Or
Yeah, I mean, you gotta take failure. You have to learn something from it. You can't just keep failing in the same stupid way over and over again. But you also, like, you can't get disheartened about it.
what
And
is failure? That's the thing. It's like we have this switch that just goes fail, and that's what normal people do, but that doesn't work in entrepreneurship.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that doesn't work.
exactly.
Let's do something else. I love it. That's great advice. What has the role of community been in your success so far?
Well, I mentioned already the really long kind of wandering periods of the desert that we've been on. We're a year and a half in, and just kind of crossing the first customer threshold right now. And it's for sure, and that comes after a prior year and a half that I spent kind of in my personal transition, trying to build up the set of skills to work in a new sector. And so the community has been really critical for me, and I've just been like kind of getting it where I can. And I owe a big debt of gratitude to a lot of the communities I leaned on along the way, to my climate journey, great Slack and community, to the folks at the On Deck Climate Tech team. Appreciate you, and then to the latest leg in the circle of entrepreneurs that I've really leaned on is, of course, Y Combinator, and so we got to be a part of that as well. And I really appreciate those people like you, Michael, that are just out there making these community spaces happen, and putting the love and care into them every day to make them a real thing. Because we're social creatures. We're pack animals.
Right.
We can't get it done by ourselves.
Well, and that's kind of one of the themes that we hit on, which is we're encouraging people to form their own pack, right? So I appreciate you saying that, because even just if you look at evolutionary weird, which is a weird part, but in the book, we've been kind of researching for the book Form Your Own Pack, which will come out eventually, is being edited. We're pack hunters, right? It's like you got that open limbic thing, and that's how we've been successful, because we're not the biggest, we're not the strongest, we're not the fastest, but it's the ability to collaborate that's made humans in general pretty successful. So that's great feedback.
Yeah, for sure. That's sometimes I'll like be really down on some part of the business that's not going well, and I'll be like thinking about it, and it'll be cracking my head on a problem. Like the problem is what I need to be focused on. And then I'll talk to a person, and even if I don't talk about the problem, it's like suddenly the gates open, the
Seems
road clears. It's a key ingredient in our diet and well-being, to like we can't do it by ourselves at all.
I agree. That is great feedback as well. All right, how do people get in touch with you, Shawn?
I'm easy to find on Twitter. I'm at Shawn Drost.
Perfect. All right, well, we're excited to follow your journey. We will be doing a live event at some point. We're just trying to figure out the date, either September, October, up in San Francisco area, and you're in Berkeley. So we'll definitely invite you to that and hope to see you there. The final thing that we want to wrap with is, when we have interesting people on the Form Your Own Pack podcast, we like you to nominate other interesting people to be a future guest. A lot of Y Combinator founders have nominated people from their class, but you don't have to do that. You can nominate investors or founders in scalable ventures. So who would you, Shawn, like to nominate as a future guest?
You know who I want to hear on this show? I want to hear you talk to the Beyond Arrow folks, because they are just like the one of those like really crazy cool companies from my Y Combinator batch. And I haven't heard enough from them about how they're going about their work. But they're building a brand new airplane.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, let's talk.
Yeah, you got to talk to them. They're building a brand new airplane with no emissions, so with no carbon emissions. So it's a pretty cool piece of kit they're working on, and I want to hear what they have to say.
And it's Beyond Arrow, is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And is there anyone we should talk to there, or we want to follow up on that?
I don't know. Maybe Valentine or Aloha are the founders. Yeah. I see who's available. Probably Aloha's gonna do the talking. But I don't know. Either or.
I love it. All right, Valentine or Aloha, you've been nominated as a featured guest, so we will follow up with Shawn and them on that. Shawn, thanks so much for sharing your time with us today, and we look forward to talking to you in the future.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Have a beautiful day. See you later.